everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Sober as Fuck Season 2. Before we get started, trigger warning as always, we talk about substance abuse, addiction, mental health, eating disorders, self-harm, all sorts of fun, triggering topics. So more than anything, we want you to take care of yourself, and if you start feeling some way or feel triggered, by all means, log off, come back to it later. But with that said, if you stick around, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And the biggest thing that you can do for us is to share. Get the word out there. Make sure everybody who needs us has access to us, and sharing is caring, so that we can keep all of our content and platform free of charge.
Like, review, and share. Those 3 things, most important, right? And comment.
Listen to it.
Yeah.
Press play.
Enjoy
That's
the fucking
probably a
show.
good first
That's right.
start.
Press play. Enjoy the fucking show.
Right.
Get something out of it.
Who we got today, Ryan?
Today we have a guy I like to call Chasing. I've known since I started in my sobriety journey. And by chasing means he's about a full year ahead of me. And we've been in the same groups together. He's a really great guy. Actually from a land where a lot of my family's from, up in Michigan, which is really cool. So hopefully we're going to have a chance to meet here pretty soon this summer. Let's bring in my good buddy who's almost 3 years sober next month, Ricky Stults. What's up, Ricky?
How are you, brother? How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. We finally got some blue skies and sun in Michigan, so it's better than the gloom and doom.
Thing. I got to tell you, I love the background, because as long as I've known you, and as many meetings as you and I have been in together, you're always working.
I brought a different shirt too. I don't have a yellow one on or a hoodie, so
I love it. So you came prepared.
That's awesome. What do you do, Ricky? For those who don't know,
I do construction work. I do concrete cutting. It's boring, so. It's a job that nobody else wants, so why not do it, right?
There you go. And you can charge a premium for it since nobody else wants it.
A hefty premium.
Right.
Nice.
Well, Ricky, you're coming up on 3 years next month, which is amazing, by the way. And I just wanted you to kind of let everybody know, I guess, what changed your relationship with alcohol of 3 years ago.
Well, 3 years ago, the reason it changed is I want to go to the beginning of what.
Go ahead.
Do it.
So, in the beginning, it was the way I was brought up: tough love, suck it up, kind of thing. We can talk about it later. Hold on a minute, I don't got time for that. Just that thing. And we lived in the city, and we were always busy doing stuff. I got 2 older brothers, and we had hunting dogs, we had raccoons, we had everything that needs to be out in the country. So we moved, and it was good because we were starting to get crazy in the neighborhood. So we moved out to the country, and it seemed like everything opened up. All the doors just kind of opened, and nobody wondered where we were at. We had 5 acres. We had a big pond, and we could put tents and stuff up out there, and football and hockey, and all my buddies would come over, and they'd stay out at my house because my parents were like, as long as there's tents up, the keys are in the barn, everything's good. So, but even before that, my first drink was like 9, 10 years old.
Wow.
And my dad we had a barn out there that my dad had a landscape company, and on the barn doors were wood, but on the bottom of it there was a slot that the nails were, you could pull out the nails of it, and I was small enough to crawl underneath it, and I'd get my brother's beers and stuff out of the fridge. And when you're 11, 12 years old, you're curious,
Mm-hmm.
You've been getting them for your dad or your uncle and your grandpa all this time and taking a sip. And so I started getting myself some too. And my buddies would come over for camping out and stuff, and we'd all get some. And that first taste, man, it just kind of it let me explore. You know what I mean? So we got probably 200 or 300 acres behind us and 1,000 acres next to us, and it was nothing. 13, 14 years old, me and a couple buddies, and 8 or 9 beers. We're gone for a couple hours because nobody would check on us because we were out at the pond.
Mm-hmm.
And it just escalated from there, to say the least. It would be 4 to 5 tents up out back to 15 to 20. It looked like a campground sometimes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had hockey tryouts for a Little Caesars travel team, AA, and I gave my buddy I gave him the best hip check ever. And I went to stand up, and I fell back down. So I tried it again, and I looked down at my foot. There was a huge puddle of blood so his skate got in between my shin pad and my tongue of my skate and almost cut my foot completely off, like through the bone, everything. Mm-hmm. And so when they tied me all up, or they put the tourniquet on and everything and got me to the hospital, and I was there for a couple days to a week before I got to go home, and my mom came and picked me up. And so my dad was in a wheelchair also because he got his leg cut off. So 2 wheelchairs in the house at the same time. But the doctor told us that you could have alcohol, but you can't smoke. So this was 93. Okay. So I'm a junior in high school. You can have alcohol, but you can't smoke. My dad's laid up in a bed, and I was in a wheelchair. And so the stairwell, we had a roundabout. You know what I mean? Both sides were open to get into the living room, so you could just make mm-hmm. a big circle. We had to replace the carpet within 2 months because my wheelchair, from going around and getting me and my dad beers, it just wore holes in the carpet, and it just kept getting worse from there. It went up. I went in the Marine Corps, and just when you think it can't get any worse, you think you're good at it. There's a whole different fucking level when you get to that game. Yeah, so the Marine Corps was a lot different because you had responsibility, but you didn't have responsibility because we had to run in the mornings, ton of PT, but just as long as you kept up, they didn't care if you were getting sick. They just didn't care about it. Didn't really care. It was just part of the life, to say the least. And we went overseas, and when we got back, I fucked up. I gotta go back real quick. Before we went overseas, I had a buddy. We had a guy commit suicide, and they came and got 4 of us to basically clean up his bathroom. And this was in '98, and so me and 3 other guys, other Marines, we had to clean the bathroom and everything. It was, you don't even want to know. It was everything that was in there, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I quit drinking alcohol for a year, and I quit everything for a year in the Marine Corps and went to AA meetings. I'm 19 at the time, and so I went to AA meetings, and that's what it was. You're down in the basement, somebody brought in stale cookies, and you would share. And I would go like once a week, twice a week, because I was infantry, so we were gone in the field for a week at a time, and which was easy for not drinking because we couldn't take any alcohol out there. And the kicker is, real quick, when we got done cleaning up Rodriguez's bathroom, we didn't have anybody come check on us. Nobody asked us if we were okay. And these images stick in your head forever. And you think you're really good at pushing stuff down because you've been doing it your whole life. Everything comes up, you know. So after Rodriguez and I quit drinking for a year, we get deployed in Copenhagen, chewing tobacco. I'm sure you guys know what that is. We'd give it to our lieutenants. So if it dried out, we'd give it to our lieutenants and they'd moisten it up. Well, I gave it to my lieutenant and got it back, and I got kind of a weird reaction from it. I'm like, man, I've never felt like this off of my Copenhagen before. And they were like, well, we're putting whiskey in it to moisten it up. And full throttle from that, it went skyrocketed. And it led to a lot of cough medicine. We'd take cough medicine to the field because we couldn't take fear. And the cough medicine would put me in a stage of almost like imaginary, you know. I don't know if you guys ever done mushrooms or acid or anything, but it's almost like everything is just happy, you know. Cough medicine was tough because it was cheap, it was quick and easy to hide. So yeah, I'm sure I'm kind of all over the place, but
you're fine.
No, it's perfect.
It is, yeah.
I don't know. I get out of the Marine Corps, and it's not easy adjusting from going 200 fucking miles an hour every single day of your life. I mean, even from, I don't know, 5th grade, you know, all you're doing, you're constantly running. And to getting into the civilian life where it's a lot different. Getting used to the mentality and everything, the anger that I had inside, my self-talk was, and it still is to this day, and my wife will even tell me, she's like, don't say that. But I don't talk to myself very nice. And there was a lot of fights. And so we'd go to parties if my buddies were still in college. So we'd go to parties, and they would, I would leave. I would leave the party because drinking when I was at that age just made me angry. I wasn't a happy drunk when I was younger. And So I would, and I know this is such an asshole move of me, but I would walk out, and I didn't want to get into a fight with anybody at the party because I didn't want to ruin the party. So I would walk down the streets and just pick a fight with 2 or 3 guys walking down the street. And one time I got in a fight with these guys, and my buddy Brian Herky came over and he was running at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I didn't want to piss anybody off at the party." And he's like, "These guys were beating the shit out of you." I was like, "I don't care. I just didn't care." You know, it's like I didn't feel anything. It was like I just wanted to be hurt. And from then on, when we would go to parties, he would follow me everywhere. This guy was so fucking awesome. And he'd be like, "No, no, no." You know, he's kind of like, what do I want to call him? Kind of like my, like apprentice, you know, or not a bodyguard, but like a, I don't know. He would just keep me out of trouble, put it that way, to make it easy.
Nice, I keep you out of trouble, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so it didn't really. So I got out of the college thing, and I don't know. I never really had a super close relationship with my dad. There wasn't much, you know. We never really did anything as kids. But it didn't seem until I started drinking that we kind of we clicked, you know. My dad was a big alcoholic also, and everything we did together was drinking. I mean, everything. It didn't matter what it was. If we went to a funeral, make sure you have a cooler. If we're going to do something, bring a cooler. Going just for a quick fucking road trip, grab a cooler. And that would lead me to, like, if I went to the VA, I'd go to therapy and I'd bring a cooler. I'd go for a doctor's appointment. I'd bring a cooler. If we went to a party and there was supposed to be alcohol there, I would still bring a cooler. So a lot of things that would ramp it up. First of all, it was, you know, the freedom in the beginning, and then the Marine Corps, and then the bond that it gave me with my dad. And my buddies would come over. My buddies would hang out with my dad before work, while I was at work, and we did a lot of ice fishing and stuff together. And we had a guy named Steve Woolweaver. He would go on these trips with us. He was my oldest brother's best friend, and he committed suicide. And when his daughter found him, he had empty bottle of Jack Daniels next to him, and this was my brother's best friend, like, in the world, and he did everything with us. My brother's 6 years older than me, and that sucked. That hit really hard because my father-in-law passed away right around the same time, and you couldn't find a better person than my father-in-law. The drinking escalated from there, and that's when the anger was hidden from the drinking, so it shifted from drinking would make me happy because it was starting to push the anger down. So I wanted the happy person to come out. I didn't want anybody to see my fucking feelings. I'm a tough guy. I don't want anybody to know anything's wrong with me. And I don't know if everybody's got this one friend, but this fucking guy, Kevin Marcy, he was everybody's best friend. Like, if I worked too much, he'd come over and cut the grass, or he'd wash the truck. Just help everybody out. And we were packing for an ice fishing trip, to go to Wisconsin, and we were getting ready to leave the next day or the next weekend, and my wife called me, and she said, "You need to come home." I said, "Well, we're almost done packing up. We're gonna pack up. We're gonna have a couple of beers, and I'll head there." And she's like, "No, you need to come home now." I was like, "What's up?" And she's like, "Kevin shot himself." I said, "Shut the fuck up." I was like, "No way." And I didn't believe it. So I drove to his house, and he had a rock key, a rock that you could hide your house key in. And I went in, and I'm looking around. I'm yelling his name, and his house was immaculate. There was nothing in the house. I went, son of a bitch. So I went in the garage, and he was gone, but everything else was still there. And it took me right back to Rodriguez's bathroom. And from there on, I mean, the dreams, I started dreaming about Woolweaver, and that was tough. That was hard on a lot of us. And that was in '07, and my whole family loved this kid. And I looked at my brother, and I was like, dude, our best friends are fucking dying. And I felt a lot of responsibility for that, because I should be picking up on these things. You know, you think you should be picking up on these, like through an emotion or through something they would say, or why wouldn't they open up to you? And Kevin put a lot of us over the edge because it was tough. And so the drinking progressed to not being able to sleep because of my nightmares. So I would drink till I blacked out every night. People would ask, well, how many did you have? And I would say enough. I never counted, you know, because every day was different. I just needed enough. And that, you know, sometimes you need a little more of the enough. And yeah, it just seemed unable to keep everything pushed down for much longer, you know. So that was in '07 when he did that. And then then it just was drinking and hiding everything. Not really hiding everything, but keeping all the emotions and everything in. I got 2 DUIs. I got one in the Marine Corps and one when I got out. But I didn't care. It was, you know, they were a couple $100 back then. No lawyer fees, no nothing. Nothing like they are now. But yeah, man, I don't know. Yeah, I felt like all the walls were just fucking caving in, and I'm sitting there trying to hold them apart, you know, as long as I can. I had to hold them apart as long as I can, because it seemed like my friends were inviting me to them in my dreams. It would be like, what, you know, it's actual conversations, you know, like, hey, Rick, how you doing? You know, you should come meet us. You should come see us. And then some dreams, it would be like on a construction site, and Kevin would pull up in a dump truck, and Steve's running a shovel, and then Tommy was an old bartender of ours. He was my buddy's brother-in-law, and he was an alcoholic and hung himself in his garage. And it just the cycle just kept going on, and to the point where I was like, you know what? These guys are where I need to be. And then the enoughs got a lot higher, and it got to a dark point where I just I would get pissed if I woke up, and I had to move. I had to go through the day, go through the day feeling like shit. Your joints are all swelled up. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're fucking pathetic. Just nothing. You're just dead inside. That's how I felt. And I got the most beautiful daughters in the world, and I just felt like a fucking ghost, around everybody, a house full of everybody, and I just felt empty, So yay. I don't know. And then one night, we got everybody in my neighborhood. Their garages they're all done up. We got bars in the garage. We got refrigerators, TVs, furnaces, and we just walk around, and everybody had beers in the garage. And we were out in the garage one night, and I tried stopping drinking. Just before this round, I tried to stop it, which would have put us almost at the same exact date, but a year ahead. And I tried that 75 hard, and I did it for a week. And then I was like, yeah, but I could still have a couple beers. And it didn't. It as soon as I had my first drink, it fucking boom, shot right through the roof. And that was a hell week. I blacked out and fell down the basement stairs. Face was all fucking blowed up. Had no clue. Woke up to my wife and her best friend, making sure I was alive, making sure I was okay, wiping my face off. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? We had my oldest daughter's graduation, and I was taking the leftover food out to put it in the garage fridge. Passed out, blacked out, walking down the steps, fucking fell in the driveway, all over the food. It just got, the walls caved in. Everything just fucking fell down. And then one night, my wife and I and everybody were out in the garage drinking. And I came in the house and I was talking to my daughters. They were sitting on the couch. And something was fucked up. I was like, they were looking at me, and it's almost like they were just like, what a fucking piece of shit. Like, why are you telling us what you're going to do? We know it's not going to happen. And I told myself I never wanted the stories like I have with my dad, where, we were drinking and this and that. And I felt that, and it was just that little fucking glimpse of light. And something clicked. When I grabbed that light, and I was like, fuck, man. I went into my bedroom, I closed the door, I started crying, and I got on Instagram, and the only reason why I had Instagram was because of that 75 hard, so I could fucking, I don't know, find motivation to do it or whatever. And I typed in sober, and it came out Soba, and Soba Sisters came up, and it was Megan. And I sent a message, and I'm drunk, I have no idea who I'm sending this message to. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I can't do this alone anymore is what I said. And she said, you don't have to. And I stopped. That was May 30th. Well, that was the 29th. And she sent me the post the message I sent her, and I look at it all the time, and I thank her all the time, and that's when I joined Sober Buddy. But and there's a lot more to go in there, but yeah, I joined Sober Buddy, and then started getting help. You know, started actually doing the therapy, and my therapist, I call her my wizard. She looked at me and she's like, something's going on. She's like, you're actually opening up. Because I didn't open up. I was deaf mute. I was just fucking, okay. You know, I was there for the game. And
Right.
I started opening up. And she's like, but what's going on? I was like, well, I quit drinking. And she's like, you need to tell me these things. She's like, I need to know. This is how I'm supposed to help you. And from then on, I see her every other week. And I think I'm going to have to see her for a while. But, yeah, man, I did Sober Buddy, and it's almost like I graduated because it was all early recovery, and I have not a bad thing to say about them because they fucking saved me, you know. And I was scrolling through Instagram again, and that's when the Reframe app popped up. I was like, okay, I'll look at it. So here I am. Do you guys have any questions? Because I feel like a dumbass.
No, I just, first off, your story's very moving. I'm sure. I mean, it moved you, I'm sure, as much as it moved me. And I'm very sorry about all the tragedy, which is just, I can't imagine going through that.
Mm-hmm.
And just putting myself in that situation, it would be tough for me to come out of, for sure. The fact that you asking for help is the hardest thing you could possibly do. I know that was my toughest thing. I couldn't imagine going through all that and then trying to ask for help. I don't even know where I would end up. That's, to me, that is just so commendable that you even ask for help is incredible.
I'll say too,
Go ahead.
I mean, that's obviously your lifesaver, asking for help.
Oh, no, sorry. I didn't want to overtalk. I agree. Your chair's so powerful. And I know that you don't have a lot of family that is served, Ryan. So your, experience. And I've talked about this on previous podcasts. My grandfather served in World War II, and he was a prisoner of war. And he passed with a bullet still in his head. And I will say that my grandfather was and still is the most amazing man I have ever encountered in my entire life. He taught me so many important things. And like anyone who lives that existence, because this is a trauma and experience that is very niche and very, very different. And though in recovery, we try not to quantify, people's struggles. This one is we could have an entire podcast series just about veterans and PTSD and all of those things. He would go as far as to say, like, he didn't even allow us to have water guns and whatnot because he was, understandably so. He's like, they're meant for one purpose and one purpose only. And he also buried a lot of his friends during and afterwards and saw that tragedy. And so for him, he's like, he taught us a lot of respect for our country, for veterans, for weapons. I mean, all of the things. This all goes without saying, Ricky. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And I've not lived any of those experiences, but our fathers weren't around, so he was our fatherly figure. And he, as we would get older, would share stories with us in very age appropriate ways. And I'm so glad that he did, right? And it wasn't to traumatize us. It was to make us recognize the reality of the world and the situations we're in. And he was a super heavy drinker and smoker his entire life. My grandmother and my mom would tell me that he was the kind of man that he woke up before the sun came up and went to bed, depending on the time of year, before the sun went down. And same thing, like going. I mean, I never saw him not moving, right? And he, they would say that he would drink an entire pot of black coffee and drink like an entire 12 pack of beer and smoke an entire pack of unfiltered Camels before anybody else got up in the morning. Like that was his morning routine. So how this man lived to be 80 is beyond me.
Right.
But when my brother was born, and he's older than I am, that's when something clicked in him. And my mom would tell me that he held him, and not to be sexist, but a young man. There is that grandfather, grandson. He didn't have sons. This was the first. And he decided that day that he was born, he said, I never want him to see me with a drink in my hand or a cigarette in my mouth. He gave up coffee, cigarettes, and alcohol that day. And it's not that whole you do it for other people, but that was his click moment. Just like you looking at your daughter sitting on the couch, no more. So my brother and I, never saw him drunk, take a drink, anything. And as I've gotten older after he's passed, my mom would share stories about how she's like, he was a stinking drunk, best man in the world. And then he would drink and just get mean and sloppy. He cheated on my grandmother. I mean, he was born in 1920. So you also have to remember, time period. And my brother was born in 1982. So he quit drinking then, rehab meetings. I don't know how the man didn't have a heart attack. But I can't imagine him ever drunk or smoking a cigarette. And I remember as a kid, he would go to the VA and walk every day. And remember, this is the 80s and 90s. He would take us to the VA parking lot and do donuts in the car. We have no seatbelt on. We're just fully, going all around the car. And we would think it was the best thing in the world. We called him Pop. And Pop was funny and active. And he I'd watch Looney Tunes. He'd come up and be like, how you not laughing at that? That's hilarious, And his favorite thing in the world was chocolate Frosties from Wendy's. He was very healthy, but you give him a chocolate Frosty and game over. And just the most incredible man I've ever met in my life. And so with your story, though it's, it's similar and it's different. There was a lot of trauma there too. It wasn't until I got older, my grandparents slept in separate bedrooms, and I would always be like, why don't y'all sleep together? And it wasn't until I got older that my mom would say, well, he had a lot of PTS dreams and whatnot, and it really wasn't safe for them to sleep in the same bed, and they coped with a lot of things. I was a child, I didn't realize. But all of that to say, because that's all about me, and this is about you. Number one, thank you for your service and everything that you sacrificed and the things that you did. I am a huge supporter of veterans and soldiers, regardless of what side of politics you fall on. It doesn't matter. The things that people do and fight for and live through are incredible. So I want to say thank you for that. And number two, I remember some of the stories from my grandfather, and even when he was a prisoner of war. And no matter what work you do or how steady you are in your recovery, waking up is really hard in the morning when you have these burned into you. And I would see that with him too. So, like Ryan said, unimaginable. And your testament to all of the people in your life who didn't make it. I always say this on the podcast that the human experience is fucking hard even when all of the stars align and you don't have that trauma. And there is darkness in the world that some people thankfully will never have to see and never have to deal with. And the fact that you were able to, you had those dreams in that pool and you still said, no, I want my kids, I want the latter part of my life to be full of my jovial pop moments, you know. That is a strength that is, I don't know that there are words for. I will go as far as to say I think that that's one of the most powerful shares we've heard on the podcast. And it's not easy to expose those parts of yourself, Ricky. And I just thank you for sharing that with us. I mean, that was a really, really precious share. And I'm rambling at this point because I don't know what else to say, but there aren't words for how grateful I am that you opened up and made me think back to like my grandfather, the good and the sad. And it's just, you know, I hear you, and that's quite an existence that you live, Ricky.
So, I can't believe I didn't talk about my grandpa in the first place. I actually missed a big part of this. I draw blanks constantly. It's just, I forget what I want to say. I know what I want to say, but I just forget it. I got to talk about my dad real quick and my grandpa. So this is, I'm still drinking at the time. I go out to my parents' house and I asked my mom, I'm like, where's Dad at? She's like, he's in the house. I was like, well, what's going on? Why is Dad in the house? My dad lived in the barn. The barn was my dad's. Not the old one. He got a new one. It had a fucking furnace, stove, refrigerator, crock pots, everything. Coffee maker, big screen TV. It was his home away from home. He sat in one chair and he did scratch off tickets and fucking Suzuko or whatever that shit was called. And I'm like, Dad don't sit in the house at this time. So go up there, like, what's up, Dad? He's like, my leg's not working. The leg that he got cut off. They sewed it back on. They did all kinds of shit to him. He's like, my leg's not working. I'm like, you want to go to doctors? He's like, no, I'll be good. I'm like, all right. So I left. Get a phone call. Can't get your dad up. He fell in the yard. Don't know what to do. It's like, all right, I'll be out there. So my brothers and I get out there. We pick him up. I'm like, what's going on, Dad? He said, fucking leg don't work. And we're like, do you need to go to the hospital? He's like, I don't need to go to the hospital. So we get him in the house, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And come to find out, he had a stroke. And we were doing week rotations at his house, at my parents' house, where we'd have to get up, get him into the bathroom, and everything that they did for us when we were babies, put it that way. And this was the hardest part. Besides everything of that shit, this was the hardest part. because we were the caretakers to watch this. So we were supposed to go in. And this is during fucking COVID. Go figure, my dad. So we can't see. My mom is having a nervous breakdown. She can't do it anymore. We can't take any more time off work. This is a month, and my dad's just sitting in a chair, and we had to clean everything up. And we were like, Dad, you gotta go for a ride. And he said, okay. And we knew something was wrong when he said okay. We knew there was more going on. And so they took him in, and they said he had multiple strokes. And they put the breathing tube in him because his heart was all clogged up. You know, a lifetime of smoking, drinking, eating like shit. And when they were doing the heart surgery, a piece of the carotid bone or whatever, the chip, went up into his head and gave him a major stroke and just basically made him a vegetable. And the insurance ran out, and we can't see him. We can't do shit. And we're just wondering, you know, we could do stupid fucking Zoom calls, and he can't talk. But then he got transferred to a home. What is it when they call it hospice, where we could finally go in.
Yeah.
Where we could finally go in and see him, but he couldn't move. He was just like he was just paralyzed. And we would walk out of there, and there was a bar 2 doors down. We'd go hide our problems. And we did that, I think, just over a year until everything was lifted. We could get in and see him. And then he got pneumonia, and my middle brother and I were in there, and he took his last breath. But he wouldn't do it until my mom left. It seemed like my mom was gone for a half hour, and he knew it. And that was it. That was when I'm talking about the walls caving in. They fell on me, heavy. And I drank my feelings. And there was a lot of feelings. So there was a lot of drinking. That's when the dark days hit. That's when I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to do anything anymore. But I felt the pain of my buddies that had been gone, and I couldn't do that to my family. But I was still killing myself by drinking. And watching my dad pass gave me a sense of a lot of things went through my head. Like he was proud. I felt like he was finally proud of me. We took a picture together. He was in the Army, and he put his uniform on, and I was like, yeah, he's fucking proud of me now. But I always held some guilt against him, against Kevin, because Kevin was at his house the night that he took himself. And that guilt or anger or whatever just kind of went away after he passed away. And it wasn't too long after that. That's when I called. I texted Soba Sisters, but I was watching my grandpa, because my grandpa was 95, and the fucking most amazing person in the world. This guy, the kindest heart. He said he would always tell us. He goes, I'd go on the Google machine, and I would Google the best family in the world. He's like, it was mine. He's like, our family pops up. He's like, do it. He'd be like, Google it, do it. I was like, come on, Grant. So watching him and being sober, it almost put me in like a happy place. I was close with him. I could feel his kindness. He was starting to get dementia, and he was talking about World War II. The his parents owned a farm, and the soldiers would come in and camp on their farm, and they would feed them while they were going through. They would feed them whatever, and he just, from watching my dad pass away, that was filled with so much anger in both of us, to watching my grandpa, the most happiest person in the world, I didn't watch my grandpa take his last breath. I was hours out. I left his nursing home, and that's when he passed. And I think that he didn't want to pass in front of me. That's how I take it. I was like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
My mom or my dad loved my mom so much, he didn't want to see that. He didn't want her to see that. And to me, I feel like my grandpa loved me so much that he didn't want me to see it, And I love that guy. I love him for everything he's done for me. But all right, that's fucking it. I'm done.
You're making me cry too, because my grandmother had COPD and emphysema, and it was really bad, just from lifetime, because she was a heavy drinker. They met because she owned a bar, and he would come in there and drink. And she smoked a bunch, and she's like, good for you for quitting when the grandkids are born. I'm going to keep smoking until she got sick and couldn't. And she passed, and then 4 months later, my grandfather passed. Just could not live without her, just couldn't do it. Yep. And my mom was adopted later in life, and so by them, and it broke her. And my mom always had like some mental health struggles. She was a fantastic mother and woman. And she passed because of a lifetime of not taking care of herself as well. Mm-hmm. We'll just say that. Mental illness, right, and unresolved trauma and all the things. And I was there when she passed too. I went there and held her hand and watched her pass. And it is really difficult. That's not even the right word, but when you watch someone you care about so much just be complacent with just not caring for themselves. That's not the best way to put it, but I think you know where I'm going with this. Like, just being okay. It was almost
not wanting to exist, or being okay with not wanting to
with
exist.
her.
Yeah.
She could talk when I first still got to the ICU. And it's funny because I was FaceTiming my brother. He lives in Dallas, and he was like trying to get on a plane and get there. And unfortunately, he didn't make it before she passed. But I had him on FaceTime the whole time because that was the best we could do. And I got a work call, and I like cleared it away. And one of the last things my mom said, and she was like, she called me Jessie. She said, Jessie, who was that called you? And I said, Mom, it's just work. It doesn't matter. And she looked at me and she said, work always matters. As she's like dying. And that was her way of being like, living matters.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear what you're saying. I had a lot of animosity towards my mom. We became estranged the last year, but we were always really close. And there was this overwhelming sense of like peace from her. Like she's like, I'm okay with this, because she suffered a lot too. And I would say that your dad probably suffered a lot silently. You know, people of a certain age coming from different roots, they're not bred, they're not, they don't know how to like work through that. It is, you know, with my mom, she would say, raising you and my brother was the best thing I ever did. It was the best time of my life. Y'all were the loves of my life. And kind of same, my brother was in addiction for 20 years. And I swear to you, once she knew that he was sober and you were sober and we were good, that's when she was like, I can leave. Like, work is done.
My work is done.
I'm done. Yep. Mm-hmm. And she was in a lot of pain from a lifetime of trauma. And it was like, kind of, you know, y'all are good. Y'all are happy. I'm ready. And it's hard when you're like, but I'm not ready. What are you talking about?
I'm not ready for you.
I'm not ready. But it was the same. Like, I remember looking at her in her hospital bed and I said, I promise you, I'm going to do all of the things that you taught me to do. You, Mama and Pop taught me to do. I'm going to be the person you taught me to be. And all the things that you couldn't overcome, or the things that you didn't get right for whatever reason, I'm gonna get them right for both of us. Mm-hmm. And I haven't talked about that at all on this podcast, but that's a big reason I quit drinking. And that's a big reason that I started this journey with Ryan, is because when a parent passes, and it felt like I was already a mom and I was already an adult, but now I'm like, I feel like her eyes are on me all the time. Like, the responsibility just got kicked up a notch, you know? Yes. And she was a single mom and worked her ass off. And, you know, I showed Ryan sort of where our origin story began, in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, in a trailer park, and her literally dragging us out of there. I'm like, if I don't become the woman and the person that these three people taught me to be, I can't know what injustice in the world that would be. And, you know, you talk about looking at your daughters, and I talk about looking at my daughter, and I talk about looking at me and my life and thinking, you know, that would be so disrespectful to my grandfather, my grandmother, and my mother, to take everything beautiful that they worked so hard for, that he sacrificed his life for, the trauma he went through. I mean, and it really does matter, all the way back to being in war, and my grandmother and my mom, and giving up it's not an option. Mm-hmm. It's not an option. No. And it's not a sign of weakness either for your friends and the people in your life who couldn't and took their own lives. You know, that's, you know, kind of trigger warning. But people who go through that and take their lives, they say there is full clarity in those moments because they truly believe what they're doing is a selfless act.
Yes.
For themselves and the people around them. And it's huge. It is a, you know, you know this, and it puts the.
Yeah, they said.
Go ahead.
I think they said it's a 5-second decision. Is what my therapist said. It takes them. It's a 5-second decision, and that's all it takes. Yeah.
Yep. And that is why, you know, I can see where you went further into drinking. After your dad died, you know, I tell Ryan all the time, I could have completely lost myself when my mom passed, and I would have had every reason in the world, because that pain, you know, it's like, I look at myself now and I think I've been, other than something happening to my child, like, I went through the worst thing in the entire world that could ever happen. And I survived,
Right.
you know? And that's
Yep.
bittersweet because sometimes there's that guilt, like that survivor guilt, but you're also proud, but then you also feel guilty and you're also proud. And yeah, I'm sure that I can't imagine you doing that, but Ricky, we're so happy that you choose to survive. And I will say that those dreams of your buddies saying, come join us, though in the moment I'm sure they felt like you felt like they meant come join us in a bad way. I think it was, we're no longer suffering. We're no longer like, come join us, like get better, do the things that we couldn't do. That's how I feel with my mom, right? Like, come join me in being clear and healthy, and life is, for the living. I love musical theater, but it's so true in Hamilton. This is so cheesy, but it's like, he says, dying is easy, son, living is harder.
It's hard.
Right.
And that is so, so, so fucking true.
It is true.
So true.
It's very true. That's a fact. And I like that though, that I never had it explained like that. Like, that they're free of their pain. And they just, and I don't know, that they're happy that.
And they want you to be free of your pain too.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Because all of the dreams I have of my mom, she's not suffering. She's like happy and healthy. All the but here's the thing, this is why we have this podcast, right? Is because people always want to talk about the success stories and the happy ones and how great it is, but we cannot forget how traumatic life can be too. And to sweep that under the rug and be like, oh, I'm fine, that's the behavior that made you sink to begin with.
That's what led us to where, and the reason why we're here.
Right, crying and vulnerability and talking about these things that bring us to tears. That's strength.
That's the healing, recovery, and strength of it all.
Because there's another veteran or another person or another man or whoever out there who's listening, and it's resonating with them right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you hear how some people, and this, I call it the shit cloud. I never had that pink cloud. There was never happiness in the beginning. The withdrawals fucking suck. Shaking, sweating, your aches and pains. I used to get, I would get 2 shots in each shoulder, every 3 months, because I got torn rotator cuffs for pain. I haven't had to get shots in almost 3 years because the swelling, there's no, the swelling's down. They still hurt, but there's no inflammation in the joint. It's amazing. It is. But you hear these success stories in the first month or two, and it's like, man, I really wished I could just say, okay, it's easy. This is the easy part. Wait until you have to deal with the hard parts. I'm like, I love pumping them up. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, but you're happy right now. But when you really need somebody, are you gonna fucking extend that hand, or what are you gonna do? That's
right.
That's where the transformation begins. I never fucking pictured this. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was gonna be that happy drunk for the rest of my life, and man, I'm just I'm happy with a latte. Put it that way.
Yeah,
me too.
I am too. A much happier person. So with that being said, with people out there listening, so when you're talking about you're going through these withdrawals and everything that you went through, probably I don't know how long it was for you. What were your coping mechanisms? What did you do to get through that? through that tough period, especially for anybody out there listening that's going through that.
My escape was work, because we do a lot of night work too. And I'd be like, "Is there any night work? Because I'll work. I can do it." I couldn't sit around my house because that was my boring time, and I would have to I got up early. I did 6-month sleep trauma therapies that have my sleep from like 8:30, 9 o'clock until 3:30 every morning. So 3:30 I'm up and I have a coffee and I go to the gym, and I still do it every day except on the weekends. I don't mess that routine up, because once the routine, if you skip your routine one day, that's okay. But if you skip your routine 2 days, you're turning into you're going to make a new routine, So, and just reaching out, that's it. Stay with us.
I'm sure you use a lot of
Yeah.
sure you use a lot of the resources that you had when you were in the Marines too, like just that structure, because something I've seen too is going back to a little more of a militant structure, right? Like you get up in the morning at the same time, you make your bed, and you don't half-ass it, you make it all the way. The way that you speak, the way that you stand, because going back to the basics of what you know that worked, that allowed you to show up, is I see a lot of people have to do. Like my mom was very, you better be dead or bleeding or taking your last breath if you want to miss school or an activity or whatever. Like you have a commitment and you do it. And it was very, structured. And when my brother got sober, he went back to that, right? He's the same way. He wakes up at like 4:00 in the morning every morning, and he has the exact same schedule.
The same way.
The same way, right? And I hear this a lot with veterans too. They're like, a lot of coming out of the military was going back to civilian life, where it's a little more loose. You have all this time.
Yeah.
And
yes,
that's difficult. So going back to those basics of a more, obviously, like you tailor it to what works for you. Okay. But a more militant, like you get up, you do this, you're respectful, and you work. It's ultimately what it is you're working a program, right? That's what we call it. You're working your program that works for you. But there is this common denominator amongst everyone who's like, I do treat it very militant. Like I do this every day at the same time. I do not digress. I am a rule follower. I am type A, and there's no derivative of it, because otherwise then I'm regressing.
Well, we'll get you wrapped up and get you out of here so you can get back to work. But a few things. Number one, thank you so much for doing this.
Yes.
It was great to get to know you, so much better, know your story. Thank you so much for your service, which was, it's what you've gone through is incredible. Your story's very powerful, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. So I thank you for that. But I want to go back to your drinking days, if you don't mind. And I would love for you to tell me some kind of funny ass story from your drinking days. If it involves you peeing, it's even better, or someone you know.
It could be while you were in the Marines with your buddies, just a
just
memory.
Give me a good, lighthearted, funny story.
A funny, hilarious story you think back on when you were drinking, because we all have them.
And there's got to be one that comes to mind right off the top of your head, and I can see you laughing about it, so I know you got one.
Well, there's just so many of them. It's the problem. I'll do a lighter, easy, funny one. Oh, shit, I don't want to do that one. A funny one.
There's no holds barred.
You're not going to offend me or probably anybody else.
Okay.
I think people have realized by now on the podcast.
Just so my buddies know this story, because they were with me. We were at Myrtle Beach. On a 96 out of the Marine Corps, and we rented a U-Haul and put all the guys in the U-Haul and got cases of beer, and it was a stick shift, and I was the only one that could drive it. So we get there and open the back up, and like 10 fucking Marines come out, all hammered and shit. And it took us a long time to catch up to them. And we went and ate, and my stomach started feeling funny. And I can't believe I'm going to tell this fucking story. I go to run across the highway to get to the hotel room to go to the bathroom, and it didn't make it.
You didn't know?
But there was a fucking Subway. There was a Subway food place right there. So I went in there. I had shit all over. Anyways, I took everything off and I threw it in the Subway bathroom and walked out of there in my jeans. And we're walking back to our hotel room, and all I hear is behind us, we had people walking behind us like, man, I smell shit. And it's like, my buddy's like, it's him. They're just pointing at me like, it's him.
They ratted you out.
Yeah, and what pissed me off, though,
friends
is
are such dickheads sometimes.
Yeah, I bought a brand new pair of Joe boxers and threw them in the fucking garbage. They were expensive back then.
The fucking trash.
So,
I remember those. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's it.
You had me at Myrtle Beach, Ricky, just so you know. As soon as you said Myrtle Beach, you had me. I already knew what the fuck was
You had me at something funny was going on with my stomach, because I thought, and I was preparing myself for a shitting in the street story, and that was just as good.
There was some in the street. It was in the street. But
I love it.
That's it.
Well, Ricky, again, thank you so much, man, for taking the
you.
time to come on and join us, and it was
that was fantastic.
It was awesome. Like I said, it was great to get to know you even more, which is even better. And I can't wait to see you when we get up to Michigan again.
I hope you reach out.
You are an incredible human being, Ricky.
Oh, I will.
You guys, thank you so much.
Have a good one. Bye.
See you, Ricky.
Bye-bye.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get
Boom.
notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.